Can you all hear me clearly? Hello? By show of hands or chat, are you able to hear me, please? All right. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Rendani. I'm one of the professional team members at APC, Endunamo Professional Course. So I'm here with the rest of the team, being Ferdinand, head of the program. And my colleagues include Alten, Kumu, as well as Asen. So you'll be dealing with most of us during the year. There are other professionals that we work with behind the curtains or behind the closed doors. But in terms of just the engagement, the 5 of us are the primary team involved in the delivery of the program. But you get to meet the rest of them. So let's kick it off. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. As we said, this is intended to be an introduction into the APC, because we understand most of you will be doing or sitting for the APC for the very first time. And secondly, we wanted to introduce you to our program. So we came into the space last year after having gotten the accreditation in April. So it was quite unfortunate because at the time it was just after we went into the lockdown. But nonetheless, we kicked off last year, learned quite a lot of stuff, which we are hoping will help add value to your preparation, to your development in the program. So what are we going to talk to tonight? Firstly, Endunamo, 2, APC assessment, our professional program. You're going to get an opportunity to just quickly meet the team, and there'll be other general information that we'd like to share with you. I've put questions at the end, but kindly note that at any point during this engagement, you can raise your hand, you can put through a question in the chat, either myself or the team members will then join in. So in terms of who we are, if you will be joining us for the very first time, so firstly, Endunamo means to empower someone. So that's a philosophy that we've built our program and all our brands around. That the idea is that we want to create partnership intensive programs where we come together to empower you to your success. And we do this through 3 brands. We've got the Endunamo School of Accounting, which focuses on BCT and CTA, Endunamo Board Course, which focuses on ITC preparatory courses, and APC is the one that focuses on delivering professional program. And it's important at this particular point that you realize that what we deliver at this level, it's beyond just preparation for an exam, but it's a developmental program helping you to become the chartered accountant that SAICA had envisioned when they created this entire journey to CASA. So you will then realize that there's quite a lot of things that may be new, and you will need to appreciate how they come together to not only prepare you for the exam you're going to be sitting for in December, but much more. And we'll want you to embrace it and ask questions as we talk through some of those things tonight. Then, how will one just capture how we then deliver our program? So here I've highlighted some of the core elements that really define us or that makes us stand apart from any other program out there. So for us, when you think about our program, these are some of the things that we'll want you to keep or bringing to mind. Ferdinand will also go into much more detail on this on some of these elements. But first of all, it is to say that our program is built around one, an intensive feedback process. And number two, it is focused on making sure that you are well taken care of in this journey. And three, focuses on business acumen. Four, building effective communication skills. And also also ethical leadership. So in this journey, you will then appreciate that some of these elements that I've just mentioned are more than what we are going to be dealing with in an assessment. And the more you appreciate it, the time we get to the assessment level, you'll be saying that now you understand why APC was designed like this. Now you understand what Psycha expects, or what do they mean when they say to you an entry-level CA. So let's first talk about this rigorous feedback process. So one of the things that you will have, or that you'll come to realize, is that our program has got a number of assessments. All those assessments are designed to help you to grow through your journey in the program. And one thing that we then do is that we make sure that when you have submitted work to us, when you've submitted tasks to us, we then give you feedback on what we believe you are doing right, what you are not doing so right and requires improvement, but it does not end there. We also give you guidance on how to actually bridge the gaps in order to be at a point that we would like for you to be by the end of the program. So it is done for each and every assessment, and we also do it on a task-by-task basis, where now you'll find a very comprehensive feedback on each of the tasks that you will have submitted. And additionally, one of the things that we do is that because we personalize this feedback, it means that the team that is continually reviewing your script, continually marking your script, have got access to your previous assessments and outcomes. When they give you feedback, it's not feedback just limited to the assessment that we've got in front of you, but it also takes into consideration the journey that we'll be working together on. Because, for instance, we might have identified that, oh, all right, you come in, you are not so strong when it comes to in terms of critical thinking. Then these are some of the things that we may suggest for you early in the program. Then come, as the program is running, we then want to see if there is any improvement from the feedback that we have put together. And it doesn't just end there. Also, your mentors in the program have got access to this feedback. And also we take the time to meet your mentors and talk to them about about our expectation, about how we assess you, about the outcomes and some of the challenges that you are facing, so that the learning and the development is not simply limited to you writing an assessment and submitting and us grading you as either LCC and so on. But because it's a developmental journey, it means that the feedback you receive, we are responsible to making sure that you work on it. And also you've got a partner in a mentor that you will then walk through the journey with, someone who understands the APC process, as well as how our assessment structures are structured. So that is something that is very critical, because it builds that integrated program, which makes sure that your developmental needs are always looked after during the course of the program. Then the other thing that we focus quite strongly on is this concept of business acumen. So you might have heard that the APC assessment is tested, or is always based on a real life case study. And for us, one of the things that we've come to understand is that when you are in that environment and you don't understand how the world of business works, it becomes difficult to get to make sense of the case study quickly being under those 5 days, because you need to understand the scenario, you need to understand the triggers, you need to do research and so on. So it becomes quite necessary for you to have what? A very strong level of business acumen, where you are able to understand how revenue models of different business work, why a particular strategy for a company can be effective or not effective, especially taking into account the current operating environment of that company. So those are some of the things that we do and focus on. And we also do so by having tasks that are what are specific to business acumen. For instance, you'll find that there are 2 tasks that we've put together in this year, where you will then be given an article with questions on how you will respond or how you will advise that company in terms of making some of the key decisions. So it's just to help you to realize and to cross over in terms of what psychology, that this is now based on a real life scenario. It is not just scenarios that we see and make up for exam purposes. Then the next thing is that we've come to find or realized that it is so difficult for you as an entry-level CA to demonstrate to your new team that you will be able to add value without having effective communication skills. Because in a relatively short period of time, you might be expected to be reporting to a CFO, to be reporting to a CEO, and also contributing to some of the communication that will be going to the board. So as a result, it means that you need to be what? You need to be effective in your communication. And that is something that we focus quite strongly on. And we do so by having a particular phase dealing specifically with business writing, where at the end of the day, you will see how this APC assessment as well as the effective communication skills actually meet. Then another thing that is also important is just what this concept of critical and integrated thinking, that is just what? That is more of something that is an overlay to everything that we do. So you will then find that in the program, we'll always challenge your thinking, challenge your logical process, so that by the time you get to the end of the program and the APC, you really are that kind of person that can be what? Trusted with some of the key decisions in different organizations. So those are some of the things that what we focus on. Then in terms of just the other part of the support, we've got a team that will be looking after you throughout the year. So we've got what we call the APC coordinator, who looks after the program, the caretaker that generally looks after your well-being, the online team that then is responsible for what? For making sure access to my universe, your learning portal, access to any key articles, any key information is always what? Is always available to you. So this is the team that you'll also work quite a lot with during the year. Then we've got what? We've got the APC assessment. What is this thing? So you've gone through ITC, and congratulations. You did well. If you're coming from the November 2020, I think the results speak for themselves, and I think it deserves a special congratulations. We like the fact that you're here. We'd like to engage with you on this program and through the program. So I think you are the special one, if one might call you that. But anyways, the APC assessment. What is it? How does it differ from everything that you've seen before? So this, for one, it's a professional exam. Not that the other one is not a professional exam, but this has got a different flavor to it. So this slide here, slide number 8, it captures what the APC is all about. First, it's a multidisciplinary case study. What do we mean? We mean that you know today that come the end of the year, you're going to be sitting for a integrated multidisciplinary case study. So it's not that there will be paper one, where now it's accounting, paper two, where it's what? Where it's auditing and so on. Now you have this APC, what? You have got this APC assessment, this case study that is dealing with different elements. Most of you may have been in the auditing environment, and you will appreciate that as an auditor, you probably need to also bring your accounting skills, because you will need to understand transactions before you audit them. So this is that kind of thinking. But now it's not just auditing and accounting. There's also tax consideration. There's also management accounting or decision making and finance considerations. So it's now all brought in together as what you will expect, because you don't go to a company and find that they ignore the finance, they just focus on the audit. No, everything is related, and that's what the APC is all about. So that's the first thing. It's a multidisciplinary case study, meaning that the tasks that you're going to get from the management will then be spanning through or over what all those disciplines or now competencies that we've spoken about in ITC level. That's number one. Number two, it assesses professional competence. So ITC, remember that it assesses what? It assesses your technical competence. So you have now ticked that box. You are now saying by coming to the APC that you are technically competent, meaning that you've got or achieved mastery over tasks that are specifically related to a technical issue. But one of the things that you will now need to come to realize about the APC is that there is another element which we call professional skills or pervasive skills. So these skills will be your personal attributes, which includes your ethical behavior, meaning that you may know your work, but if you are coming and you are busy suggesting things that are contrary to legislation, things that are contrary to good moral values, things that are contrary to strong corporate governance rules, then it means that you are missing the mark, and you might be assessed as not being professionally competent, because it's not just a matter of a good answer, but it is that answer that is what that shows that you possess both professional skills and technical competence. Another skill that is in that bucket of professional competence is your critical thinking skills, the ability to look at something and question it, the ability to think critically about the information that is given before you and asking the right questions and being able to bring information from different sources and make sense of it. That is something critical, and that's what that 5 days is all about. Are you able to research on a company that you just come to know in that 5 days and be an expert in that 5 days? So that is why what we are talking about here when we are talking about professional competence, that it is much more than what you know in terms of technical competence. Number two, when we assess, or the APC, what it assesses, it does not now assumes that you've got an MBA. It recognizes that you are coming in as an entry-level CA. So it has considered your experience in your training program. And that's where the 20-month comes in, because they want, or they understand that, yes, in a first year, a lot of things may be new, you're still figuring things out and so on. Then comes second year, you've got more time to now build on what you've learned, and also maybe you are redoing some tasks and doing them differently, and also getting an opportunity to supervise or to deal with people at a lower level and so on. So the assessment is done as taking that into consideration. So there's that practicality that maybe if you ask your friends to say, when you go to work, what are you expected to do as an entry-level CA? That is what we are talking about expecting of you at this level. Then the next one is problem solving in an integrated manner. So I did mention that this is a multidisciplinary case study. And now that means the problems that you may encounter may involve different dimensions. And we want you to be able to recognize that when you make decisions, you don't make decisions in a little room and therefore everything else does not apply. So it will want you to be able to bring different mindsets, to bring different considerations together in making decisions. So that is something that we want you to just appreciate about the APC. Next, it is the fact that that information that you provide, it is going to be used to make business decisions. That is another important point, that we as chartered accountants, we are not just expected to just crunch numbers. You are not just expected to do a variance analysis, but the value is in saying that what kind of, how can the information that I'm providing, the information that I'm analyzing, be of help to a board of director, to the senior management, and therefore understand that business acumen becomes very critical in thinking about how to deal with the information before you. Then next, it's the fact that unlike ITC, there's usually that answer that examiners are looking for. And when it comes to APC, you will also come to understand that the marking is so different. There's no more, it's a pass or it's a fail. There's no more that at least I got 50%. But now we move to a competence-based evaluation, because we are understanding that a competent answer does not need to be the right one. We are understanding that it needs to bring much more than simply saying that 1, 2, 3, 4 is the answer. And not all tasks are technical, such that it means that you need to have this technical response as an answer. You will get to deal with tasks that are involving a business decision, and you might need to come up with consideration. And some of the consideration might just be so good that and well packaged that we consider that to be to be appropriate for the decision at hand. And in some cases, it could be ethical issues where you need to really highlight so many ethical concerns or just the core of ethical concern. So that is the kind of thinking that you need to bring. That it's more of there's more of increased degree of decision making rather than let's do this X, Y, and so on and so on. But as you will see, what the ITC will have then taught you, or what you will have taken away from the ITC, is going to be critical in your journey. And this then brings us to to the 9 realities that you will need to keep in mind when we talk about the APC or your APCJ. So if you really take these things and make sure you work on them over the next 9, is about 9 months or so, then you will get to appreciate what the APC is all about, and it will make it easier for you to tackle it. So 1, you have to understand the APC. So in so many cases, it is really painful for us, because when some candidates go to sit for the APC, they've not really gotten a good sense what the assessment is all about. They've not gotten to understand why there is a 5-day period. They've not gotten to understand why there is no formal solution after the assessment like they do in CTA. So that is what we want you to appreciate, that diagram we gave you about the APC, because the reality is that you can appreciate that there will be different business in the same sector, and you will find that all of them will be successful and they might not even be pursuing the same strategy. And that is the idea there. Because if now there is then this a perfect company that will all need to look at, that will be a different story. But you have to appreciate that that degree of what decision making, that increased degree of decision making, it's something that you need to understand. It's part of your APCG. So you therefore need to understand the principle of thinking through issues, which is then talking to critical thinking. You need to understand how businesses work and so on to really then embrace what the APC is trying to do. Because when you get there, when you're given a scenario you've never seen or a company that you've never been exposed to, you can start saying that, can I ask myself about 1, about 2, about 3, and so on and so on. Which then brings us to the next point, that you cannot outstudy the APC. So in ITC, I know you will then have those question banks, and you'll be saying that I want to make sure that there are 20 question banks. If I do 15, then I know I will have been what? I will have been in a very comfortable place. So here, it doesn't work like that. Here, there is what? There is no new technical information that we are going to what? That we're going to teach you. And wherever we might be telling you about some new development is just to what? To help with you with your continuous professional development. But it is not a matter where now we are saying that in preparation for your next case study, make sure you revise if it's 15. Make sure you revise if it's 16. No, it doesn't work like that. One of the things that you will then get to appreciate in that 5-day period, you will then have what we call triggers, which will then say that management are dealing with, say, an IFRS 15 issue. They're dealing with evaluation issue, which will then tell you or prompt you to say, do I need to come prepared to deal with evaluation task? Do I need to come prepared to deal with what? With a revenue task. So do you see that you could then have gone through the standard like we used to do in ITC, but find that the management of that company is just dealing with one particular issue. So you cannot then what? Say that the proportion of the time you're spending on technical work and so on will help you with your success. That will not work. Then thirdly, I spoke about what? Professional skills, your business acumen, your ethical behavior, critical thinking, and integrated thinking, your ability to work with other team members, and so on and so on. But one of the things that may not have been clear is that those or some of those professional skills, we cannot sit in class and then teach you. That's not something that you get taught. It is something that you develop through doing work or undertaking what? Different tasks. So one could possibly think of it as like on the job kind of training. And that's what we have embraced in this program as well, to say that there are some tasks that will not be dealing with you directly. You may be dealing with them on your own or with your mentor. So the idea is that things like ethical leadership will be tested under different what conditions. So you will then need to appreciate that sometimes things are not as black and white. You might then be forced into a situation where you need to make decision of whether you prioritize the company's needs or you prioritize your consumers' needs and so on. So those are some of the things that we cannot sit in class and say the answer will always be this. It's something that will need to be taught through different what engagements or developed through different engagements. Then the next one is to also appreciate that those professional skills, they cannot simply be turned on and turned off. So it is not something where now you can say, after March, I need to have mastered critical thinking. After May I need to have mastered ethical leadership and so on and so on. So the idea is that through these different tasks that we might have given you, we will have had different objectives, which we'll want and stress to you to embrace so that you develop what the kind of thinking or the kind of approach that we'll want you to have as the APC candidates. So it is something where now you should always embrace the journey and not say, after this period, if I'm not here, then I'm worried and so on. No, we will tell you when we are worried, and we will have then taken into consideration the time and the assessment that we'll have given you. Then number 5 is to understand that those professional or pervasive skills I've told you about, it's not going to be a situation where now you have a task that will be testing those skills directly. Yes, some tasks could just be an ethical task, sure, but generally it could be that I say to you that I want you to help me with this evaluation. And I want to just make sure that we really boost the numbers in order to have a strong IPO pricing. So now you might be saying that no, hold on, I understand the task that is a valuation task, but that specific request to boost the IPO pricing, it is now making me uncomfortable. So that is now where you are bringing your professional skills. Yes, the task needs to still be done. You might need to do a review evaluation, but you will still be expected to bring yourself to say, I'm a professional, and the way that I believe in, I've got these fundamental principles that I need to be driven with, and this kind of request is not sitting well with me, kind of what thinking. So those are some of the things that you will need to bring into your responses. And I may give you work that does not make sense. And before you jump in and undertake evaluation, I want you to interrogate the numbers, bringing pervasive skills into consideration, the ability to validate information. So those are some of the things that you really need to appreciate about your APC journey. That it is not going to be a situation where I say, using critical thinking skills to demonstrate your professional behavior, please respond to this task. No. Then the next thing, effective communication skills are critical in articulating your thoughts. So some of you will then be saying that I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I thought I understood the issue that in that task that I needed to address 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll say that sounds right. Then what happened? No, I got an outcome of LC. So it could have been that when you were addressing or articulating yourself on those matters, you were not clear to your audience. And when I received it, I found that you had spelling errors. I found that your sentence construction was all over the place. I found that it seems that some thoughts are missing and so on. So as your audience, as your senior manager, I could really be put off in such a way that I end up asking your colleague to do the work. And to me, I'm saying that response is of limited competence. And that's why it is not adding value to me. Not because you don't have critical thinking skills, but because you have not mastered effective communication. So we have a phase that is called developing business writer. Some of you know that maybe even we walked the ITC journey and we've told you and wrote question marks, what are you saying? So here, what are you saying will be very important and can impact your success. It is not a matter of the answer is right or the candidate has got a Forex in the response. No, it is much more. Number 7, business acumen. So as I was talking about business acumen, understanding how business works, how the machine that is called a business generates revenue, the cost structure, strategies, the environmental impact, and so on. Some simply think that it comes through reading integrated report. integrated articles. But no, that's not enough. What we'll then expect you to do is to engage the information. So engaging information that is before you, questioning its viability, its reasonability in the context, especially in this COVID-19 environment, it becomes so critical. So I will want you and I will challenge you in this journey to do what? To think about what is happening. But to me, it is not for you to tell me that that this is what you have come to read on different articles. But I want you to come and say, I've read this and I believe, or I think that is now where what you are taking and developing business acumen. But if now you come and say, I've read and now this is the answer because this article said 1, 2, 3, then you've missed the point. You need to make sure that you learn to integrate the world outside you and also make sense of it. And that's what business acumen is all about. So that when you get that case study, you get excited when they're telling you about AVOs and you're like, I didn't know this, how you make money with AVO. Oh, this is the import and export market. Oh, okay, so I'm thinking about risk. Well, what is the appropriate strategy? How can they manage this? That is now where we are bringing business acumen into use. And that's the kind of embrace that we want you to have throughout this program. Then number 8. So you will have appreciated that now the pack changes. There's always a pack. You had a pack and a trolley in CTA, your books, your auditing, and so on. You had them in ITC. Why should it be different in APC? And in APC, unlike ITC, you can bring an entire library with you in there. Like literally, as long as it's not electronic, as long as it can be put on paper, you can bring it. So yes, anything. You might be thinking, what about X? Yes, X is also in there. What about Y? It's also in there. But one of the things that you will realize is that this is a simulation of real life. If you are called into a meeting by a client, if you are going to see your boss, you don't carry your entire desk with you and you go to your boss and say, just in case the boss asked me about 1, 2, 3, I need to be prepared. Yes, you need to be prepared, but it does not mean you need to bring the entire world into the exam with you. And in our experience, and even with this APC 2020, we have come to see that a lot of candidates use a pack as their comfort. They go in with information that they've never read. They go in with information that they've never touched, and they're hoping that in that 8 hours, the answers will be somewhere there. And you'll have to appreciate that you probably have never done that in real world, where your boss calls you to a meeting and just say, just in case, let me bring my entire file, let me bring my laptop, my so on and so on, just in case they ask me this. No. So that is the same kind of attitude that we want you to we want you to take. You will receive a very, very compact file. To make sure you are challenged. We are hoping that you will not bring another file. We are really hoping. So we give you a small file because we know in the 8 hours, there is no way that you will go through hundreds or thousands of pages. So don't even attempt to do that. Don't find comfort in a file or in a pack that you will not be able to open. Your friends will tell you about the big names file. They will be there. There's always one. So please, today, remember this. Do not fall into that temptation. Then the last one. Over the years, there's been this expectation that APC, I'm done with ITC, I'm done with CTA. I can throw away my standards. I can throw away my legislation. I don't need them. But the reality is that technical competence is vital to your success. There's never been an APC which will be an exam that we can give to a doctor who came on top of the class and they will pass. No, because there are underlying principle of valuations that might be coming there. Then in some cases, they will say, deal with IFRS 15 5-step model. So yes, someone could have the intellect to make some of the key decisions. But now when we are talking about IFRS, you guys need to shine. You need to say, yes, I know IFRS 15, it has tortured me in CTA, that I mastered in ITC, that's why I'm here. So that is the idea that we want you to embrace, that your technical competence, yes, at this level is not as rigorous as where we want you to calculate the value of a loyalty point. No, we are not that mean. But the idea is for you to now take that technical competence and convert it into what? Into making sure you understand scenarios, pick up triggers, and so on. So that is what? That is how we want you to think about your APC, Jane. Does that make sense? Does it make you excited? I'm feeling excited already. I wish we were starting with class tomorrow. Are you excited? Any questions? Any questions? Are we all good? You are awfully quiet tonight. Anyone? Mashudo. That sounds like Juvel. And now should we go for it?
It's Venda. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know if it's too early. Sorry, sorry for not greeting you guys. How are you doing?
We are all good. Maybe you're just excited. It happens.
Yes, I am excited. So I don't know if it's too early to ask, but I just wanted to ask with regard to the approach of studying and how much time we need to put in and stuff like that. I don't know if it's too early to ask. You're gonna come to that, and yeah.
Oh yes. So I'll note it for Fedi. So you will address it when he unpacks the timetable and the structure of the entire program. Yes. But noted. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question? Any other? Are we good? Can we jump into the professional program? I see. Oh, Tandeka is excited. That's good. Yes, Tuso.
Hi, Renani.
Good evening.
Hi, and hi, everyone. When is the program beginning?
So for everyone who's ready to begin, so you'll see that we've got 3 programs that we run, as we will also catch up on it. So we've got 3 programs. The first one kicks off on the 27th of March. So that is for anyone who's not waiting for results, anyone who's ready to kick off the program. So if you were successful in ITC November 2020 and any of the previous ITC, 27th of March, we kick off. Then there will be another program that kicks off after the APC results. And also a last one that will kick off after the ITC results for April 2021. So if you are done and you are ready, 27th of March, that's kickoff date for us.
Okay, thanks, Renani.
Thank you. All right, maybe let me allow Fedi to jump in, and if you got any questions, we will be able to assist.
Thank you, Rendani. Am I audible?
Yeah, all good on my side.
Fantastic.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, from that strong base of what assessment of professional competence is all about, we will jump straight into how we formulated our professional program. There were a number of things that Rendani mentioned that is a foundation of APC, are the key skills that are being assessed throughout the professional competence assessment. Then, as a result of that, we've built our program on a number of those skills. So I will start with what you are seeing on the screen. Rendani spoke a lot about rigorous and personalized feedback. So we've got a number of case studies, 4 to be quite exact. The 4 case studies is a journey which you guys are going to be using to ensure that you are declared competent at the end of the day. What do I mean by that? I mean, from day one, we do not assume you're going to be competent. Because remember, we are saying you're going to have 20 months at a minimum of competence that has been built through training environment. But we need to get you to a point where you are an entry into a profession. You are actually qualified and ready to be declared a chartered accountant. So we're going to take you through this 9 months. And in the 9 months, we're going to say, right, let's go through case study number 1. And when we go through case study number 1, we're going to have feedback that is personalized to you to say, these are the strengths that we're identifying that you've got. You are possessing these brilliant things that you can use to work around this development areas that we're identifying. And we're going to do that and make sure that you improve those areas as you go until the last case study number 4. And our case studies and the marking there is so rigorous that at the end, you get such detailed feedback for each and every case study, for each and every task. At a task level, when we asked you to respond to a particular email, we're going to respond to you in the sense that what are the good things that you've done? What are the areas that you need to develop? And what is the best advice that we're giving you going forward? And we'll keep on checking that and making sure that you develop all the way to the end. And we are expecting to see an improvement from one case study to the next until the final case study, which is case study number 4. And over and above this personalized feedback, we're expecting you, in a case where you do not understand some of the feedback, or in cases where you do understand the feedback, but you do not know how to action it, how to put it into action, how to make sure that I improve it. For instance, if someone says, your business acumen is lacking and I want you to improve your business acumen. It might be written in that way, but how? How do I do that? Do I read more? Do I research more? What do I do? And you've got the opportunity to then contact any of the professional team members and ask them to explain, to give you advice. You are also encouraged to talk to your mentors about this to make sure that you are able to understand and know how you should be actioning each and every development point that you receive. The second part, which we built our program around, is candidate support. Candidate support is in a number of ways, starting with the professional team members. They are contactable at any point in the program, on WhatsApp, on My Universe, which is our learner management system. They're also contactable through telephone calls if you schedule an appointment. Over and above that, the support from your mentors, we make it quite extinct and compulsory for every single EPC candidate to have a mentor and to have a close relationship with their mentor. And our mentorship program is designed in such a way that mentors become part and parcel of the program. Yes, one of their key performance indicators is to ensure that they look after your emotional well-being. But over and above that is to walk the journey with you. But how would they walk the journey with you if they do not understand what that journey is? So they are handpicked from the fact that either they've gone through an APC program before and they've written APC and they are chartered accountants. Over and above that, if they haven't gone through the APC, they are chartered accountants in good standing and have ensured that they keep up to date with the latest developments. And also, they understand our timetable so well. So as in those case studies that I was referring to, they understand which case study we are doing and what is expected of you. And after each case study is written, we draft what we call an examiner's report that we distribute and present it to the mentors to unpack what were the issues that we identified that they must instill in each of their mentees and how should they be helping their mentees. They get the global report that will talk to the general feedback, but also they get copied through the learner management system that we're talking about, to copy it for specific feedback that relates to their specific mentees. So they are able to understand exactly what your feedback is and where you are and what type of help you need. Now, that's number 2. 3, we've got candidate support in the form of caretaking and coordination. So Rendani spoke about the fact that you've got someone in Zelia who's gonna take care of your needs. I mean, it might be administrative elements, it might just be to talk and to catch up in terms of how you're finding the program, in terms of feeding back to say, I haven't spoken to Rendani in a while. Is there a point I can chat to him for 15 minutes or so? I've been struggling with something. What do you think? Because she understands the journey of candidates, having seen this journey over a number of years, she's able to then give you a listening ear and make sure that your needs are well taken care of, and she points you in the right direction. Similarly, with the coordination, Rivu will be very responsible to make sure that you are well taken care of. That's not it when we talk about candidate support. The 4th thing that I want to refer to under candidate support is the fact that we understand the training environment. And because we understand the training environment, we continuously going to be giving feedback to the firms that you belong to. And we're going to be looking out for the feedback at those firms to say, what are you guys struggling with? And how should we be refining our program as the 9 months go to make sure that your needs are handled and also you are ultimately being trained to be a responsible business leader, which is the point where we will declare you competent. So we've got this number, 4 items that will make sure that you get the necessary support that you need. On the skill side, Rendani spoke about business writing skills. And on the business writing skills, our program specifically has language experts that sit with us for over 2 weeks, making sure that they hone onto some of the communication skills. We don't want to get to a point where when we are reading your response, we need you to come and speak to it and say, this is what I meant. You need to say exactly what you mean, and you need to mean exactly what you say. So they help us with clarity of expression, how to be clear in your expression. They help us with logical argument. How do I build my case? Okay. Interesting. Clary, nice one there as well. So how do I make sure that my argument is strong enough? How do I build my points? And to build your points, you've got to demonstrate that critical thinking and say, I've considered a number of alternatives. Here are the pros, here are the cons, here are the number of ways I could mitigate the cons, and that's why I'm coming to this conclusion. Do you see that buildup enables me as a reader of your response to understand your logic and your common sense as to how you reach the conclusion, and your conclusion is just not baseless. They enable us and they help us with structuring your response. Where must be the start of my intro and the end of my intro? How do I use bullets? How do I use tables to demonstrate some of these things that are complicated, some of the numbers, to make sure that my sentences are not too long, and the likes, the appropriate style. How do I communicate to my immediate supervisor? Surely the tone will be different to when I communicate to my peer in a response in an email. What about if the memorandum is going to the board of directors? Surely the style and the tone will be a lot more different because they are not as technical, or they will probably be one or two chartered accountants on that board who will understand some of the standards, but the rest of them, they are probably technical in the industry, but not necessarily in the finance sector. So then it means I need to make it more punchy, but less technical. So that's why we focus a lot on business writing, to make sure that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Business acumen. Around business acumen, we make sure that because a number of you guys are coming from different type of industries, some are actually not in industries. The 4 case studies that we have are from different industries to enable you to understand private sector and public sector a lot more, especially around different sectors. So if, for instance, our case study number 1 is in construction, case number 2 will probably be in property or in a retail space, supermarkets and the likes, to make sure that you are able to put yourself in a different industry at all times and understand what are the key risks of that industry, what makes the industry tick, what makes the business tick, what are the goals of the business, what is the strategy of the business, and how is the business making money? What will make this company collapse? What will make a construction industry collapse might not necessarily make an entity in a property sector to collapse. So you need to move from one industry to the next. But we're not saying at any point that by the time you move across all these industries, we would have spotted the industry that APC 2021 will be, not at all. But we want to make sure that by the time we declare you competent and say you are ready to go and write APC, no matter which industry they place you in, you will be able to excel, because we prepared you enough as to how to research an industry, how to research the competition and the strategies of each of industries. Okay, so we've given you that base, we've given you that edge that will be applicable, or that framework that will be applicable to multi-industries, no matter whether we've walked through those industries or not. And you're going to be comfortable that I'm going to be a business leader in every type of industry, whichever one it is. So at the end, you'll be so comfortable that if you are having an interview in a completely different sector to any of the ones that we walked through, to any of the ones that you and your training officer have walked through your training contract, you'll be like, of course, bring it on, let's go, because I'll use the 1 day or 2 days before my interview. I know the framework to go through to make sure that I understand everything about that industry, and I'm able to walk the talk and demonstrate my competence in that area. Critical thinking is about making sure that your conclusion is built on a strong foundation. You've considered a number of alternatives and you've concluded. So it's not like when I'm asking you a question, I'll generally ask you a question quite fast and I expect an answer. When you are responding to my question, you usually have what we call an initial reaction or a first instinct to say, oh, Fedi, I've got that answer. I was actually waiting for that question when I thought you will never ask. And you'll lay out what your thoughts around my question are. But you'll be like, hang on, before I conclude, how would Mashudo, how would Sandile respond to such a question? Because I need to consider other views and other alternatives. And in considering those, that is part of what we call critical thinking. Because Sandile's view might challenge some of the things that I think are the best about my response. And I need to go and articulate as to exactly how I'm mitigating some of what Sandile thinks might be the better part of the responses. I'm pulling all this together to come to that conclusion, either to support my conclusion or to say, actually, the other views are contradicting or are challenging my view. And throughout this process, I'm changing my view to this final view. And that is what we call critical thinking and making sure that ultimately you get to the right answer. Okay? And all this are what we call pervasive skills, because like Rendani said, they are not going to be fully developed through classroom lecturing. Some of them are going to be through assessment, are going to be a number of iterations of writing, some of them through your mentors, and making sure that, for instance, in a business acumen world, we've got articles that we send to your mentors and say, go and discuss this in groups or on an individual, on a one-on-one basis with your candidates, and tell us whether they do enough research around these industries. I mean, this morning, for instance, the likes of Momentum, the likes of First Rand and Liberty were releasing their results. Are you guys aware? How do we make sure that you guys keep up to date on those? I mean, if you're in the financial services sector, you should be on top of those. And we've got sector groups that we allocate you to, or actually you volunteer to which one is of your interest, so that you check the articles and the news that are coming in that sector to make sure that you teach, or teach is actually not the right word. You share your knowledge and experience with some of the members of that sector to demonstrate that you're a specialist in that sector, or you want to be a specialist in that sector. And you can move across different sectors to go and listen to another sector of interest to say, what are they talking about in this sector? Because I feel like I've got everything around possibly the financial sector. Those are some of the foundations that makes up our program and that enables us to declare you competent at the end of the day. Flipping to the next slide. Demonstrate or gives me the pleasure to now say, right, how does our timetable or our program look like? And when we look at our program, I think Rendani already congratulated you specifically for making it so far. And I'm going to re-emphasize that and say, well done, guys. You've made it so far. The end is near. If you haven't actually popped a champagne, I want you to do it, to say, I've made it so far, well done to myself. And now the last lap is here. The reason for that is that APC is you now going to demonstrate your professional competence. Everything else is done, okay? Where do we start? So for you guys, because I'm assuming that you've got your ITC and you as your last assessment. So ITC was your last assessment, and as a result, you are new entries into the APC program. So if you are a first-time APC candidate, then in that case, you're going to start from what we call phase 2. Because you've never been part of any APC program. In that case, in phase 2, we're going to start with setting the scene. When does that program start? As Randani stipulated, that program starts on the 27th of March. Okay, so this is for first-time APC candidate, meaning you've never written APC. Remember, you might not have written APC because of two things. You've recently just passed ITC, and you've never written APC. Or secondly, you've been part of another professional program, and having been part of another professional program, they did not declare you competent, meaning they did not give you a certificate. So as a result, you could not write, for instance, APC 2020. So we regard you as a first-time APC candidate. Like I say, we start from phase 2. What does phase 2 mean? We set the scene to say who is a competent professional, to say, ultimately, we want you to be a competent professional after this 9 months. Who is that person actually? And this is where we're going to say, right, these are the people that walk on top of water. The Chartered Accountants of South Africa. These are the people that are responsible business leaders. They demonstrate ethical leadership. They are technically great. They can be put in any industry and they will excel. They are global, they are multinational. These are just incredible people. So we're going to set the scene around that and say, what is the expectation level for you at the end? Okay, so that is phase 1, starting on the 27th of March, meaning you need to have registered before then, way before then. Then phase 2, phase 3, because remember you're starting at phase 2. Phase 3 is developing business writers. Here, we're making sure that the language experts spend a lot of time with you guys to make sure that you are able to clearly express yourself, to be logical, to use appropriate style, to never have grammar issues, and your sentences are well constructed at all times. Then after that, which business writing then will continue for the rest of the program through the use of other means. Then we get into phase 4, which is continuing professional development. Then we say, right, we know you're technically great because you passed your ITC, but there could have been things that have popped up in between your ITC or you writing your ITC and studying your standards and your legislations and everything. There could be new legislations, new IFRS, new interpretations and everything that has now been developed and been introduced that needs to be adopted. What do we do to make sure that you remain technically competent? So we're going to do that. And some of you guys might have passed ITC a while ago, not recently, or have written it a while ago. What should we be doing to make sure that you keep up to date with that technical competence? And that is the phase that we build ourselves in. There could be a COVID situation that has been the case in the 2020 year, which we needed to say, right, from a technical element, from auditing, what does it mean now to audit under COVID? From a tax perspective, what are some of the new legislation that have been introduced as a result of COVID? From an IFRS perspective, I mean, some of the leases were being modified and the likes. So making sure that we respond to some of the latest developments also in the market, such as the credit downgrades of SA Inc. and the likes. And then after that, phase 5, that is where we get into what we call case-based learning. Remember, I spoke about 4 case studies and I went into detail around them. You would have done one case study using it to walk the rest of the journey for you guys to see exactly what is expected of you under each case study. So we do case study, what I call case study 0, which we break it into a number of case studies or mini case studies. We take it and use it to demonstrate to you what do we mean by a trigger? What do we mean by research? We do it with you. So we use case study number 0 to demonstrate the journey for you from beginning to end. And then case study number 1, now we're gonna simulate and say, right, here's a case study, you run, because we've showed you before with case study 0 as to what you need to do. And that's when then now we start assessing you rigorously and giving you feedback to make sure by the time we get to case study 2, you are getting closer to competent. By the time we get to case study 3, you are competent. Okay? And then the last phase, well, I guess for me, phase 5 is the last phase. And that time we declare you competent. There could be one person that we might not declare competent after phase 5. Obviously, there will be what we call a supplementary assessment, which is built around case study 3, and we'll give that person another opportunity to write a supplementary case study. And once they are competent, we declare them competent. However, there could be half a person or someone else, a fraction, and I hope none in our APC 2021. There could be someone who, after all this journey, because of other circumstances that are beyond anyone's control, they are not being declared competent. And then we say those candidates during November, which hopefully will be 0, we say, we're not declaring you competent because there's still a number of things that you did not demonstrate or you could not demonstrate. We want you to be part of what we call a deferred program and go into phase 6, meaning you are deferring writing APC 2021. Meaning you're not going to write APC 2021 because we're not handing you the certificate, because these are the 2 or 3 areas that we still want you to work through, and then you will write APC 2022. Meaning between November and March of 2022, we work through those 2 or 3 areas that we have identified that got us to not give you a certificate. And then you are joining the EPC again of 2022 to redo the program because you were not ready. Hopefully, there will be none of you guys. Can I get a yes that none of you guys will be in phase 6? So our end is phase 5. In that way, I've explained the timetable of every first-time APC candidate that are starting, being your group, which are starting on the 27th of March. Then now, what about candidates who today are waiting for their APC 2020 results, meaning they've actually done this before, but they're not so confident that they will make it when the results are released in April. Those candidates, the moment your results are released in April, you come back. If you did not make it, we call you an APC repeater, and that's why we run. The second program is the APC repeaters course, and it starts with phase 1. And that program starts on the 1st of May, meaning end of April. Actually, the closing date for registration for that one is the 30th of April. And that program starts with what we call a phase 1. A phase 1 is to, let's go back to the drawing board and understand exactly what made you not competent in APC 2020. So we go through your script and we review it alongside the feedback that we got from SAICA. We have a detailed discussion with you to say, where do you think you struggled? This is where we think you struggled, but you've got your own view as to what led you to not be declared competent by SAICA. let's put a development plan together and let's run through this year to make sure that APC 2021, it's in the bag. So that's why the APC Repeaters program has got what we call a phase 1. But ultimately, then, especially as they get into phase 3, then they converge into the full program. So we are now part of the full program. So they go through phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whereas the first timers goes through phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 only. Okay. Then there could be candidates that were not successful in ITC, or they're going to be writing ITC in April. If you're writing ITC in April and you definitely know you're going to make it, okay? Sometimes it's so easy to know, I'm going to make it. You can tell yourself today on the 4th of March that my ITC, I'm writing ITC in April and I'm going to nail it. If that is the case, and you know that because I'm not a first-year trainee accountant, I'm a second year, third year, whatever the case might be, meaning in November, in November or December when APC 2021 is being written, I'm going to have 20 months of training program already ticked, meaning I'm going to be eligible to write APC. Well, the moment I finish writing ITC on the 23rd of April, I finished studying ITC, then I can jump onto the APC program then. That is what we call the accelerated program, which also starts on the 1st of May, meaning you write ITC and then after that, immediately after that, you register with us during that last week of April and the beginning of May, you jump onto APC program or the EPC program whilst waiting for the results in June, because you know you're going to nail ITC. Remember, you've made that decision today on the 4th of March, and you are living that dream. So then you start the program on the 1st of May, and then 30 or so in June, you just get a confirmation that you nailed your ITC indeed, and you continue with the APC program or the EPC program. Do not wait for the results on and say, no, I have to wait for the results in June, because if you get the results in June, it means you'll only want to be registering with an APC professional program in July. And by that time, we will not be taking any more candidates because we know it will be quite difficult for us to develop you into what a competent professional will be in those last 4 months. I mean, July to November is only a few months and we cannot do it. Okay, so that's why we will not be taking any further candidates at that point. Any question? There should be questions around the timetables. Cool. If no question, Randani, flip to the next slide. Right, at this stage, and guys, you it's either you raise your hands or you keep on questions in the chat box. So who is behind the professional program? The professional program, the EPC is headed by myself. My experience is that I'm a full-time partner at KPMG in audit in the financial services sector. And I've walked the journey of APC for over 7 years, having been an external reviewer of all the exams since the beginning of the program, or the beginning of APC, which was in 2014. Actually, in 2013, we had what we call a specimen exam that I also reviewed to make sure that people in the industry know what is expected. Above that, we've got Rendani Mutelo. Rendani is our managing director here at Endunamo, and he is well known as a guru in management, accounting, and finance, in math. And because of his passion, he also still has a great interest in accounting and making sure that he keeps up to date in that area and lecturing some of our programs, especially at a CTA and ITC level in accounting. I always say he is our resident nerd. I think there's a question before I move to Asan. May you kindly repeat how many assessments are we writing? So Assurance, thanks for that question. So we are writing 4 assessments, basically, as in 4 case studies. Case study 0, which is broken into a number of case studies, but there we hold your hand and we show you how to write it, basically. So it doesn't really count in terms of assessing your competence, but it's something that we just use for you to get a sense of the level of feedback and the type of things that will come into the normal assessment. And then we've got the 3 case studies, case study 1, 2, and 3. So those are the real case studies that now we're starting to assess your competence and expecting you to demonstrate some level of competence on a trajectory level, meaning we don't expect you to excel or to be competent in case study number 1 from the word go. We want you to be, so you need to do your best in case study number 1, but number 2 and number 3, those are the ones that really count the most, to say you need to really demonstrate your competence in those. Give me a green tick, Assurance, if I've responded to your query well and you've got no further question. Or if you do, let me know. You can also just open the mic and go for it. Snotile, you say, will we need to take 5-day study leave for all assessments? Nice question, Snotile. So this is how I usually respond to a question around leave. So let me start with case study 0 that we help you through. It's written through the weekend, over a weekend, over a number of weekends, and we're helping you. So probably in that case, you don't necessarily need to take leave for case study 0 at all. Because it's written over the weekend, and also we give you a lot of time to go through the research phase. It's not like, it's not simulating the 5 days, because we're still trying to show you. Case study 1 to 3, we expect you to start taking leave. But what we do with case study 1, we make sure that it's written during the week so that you take the leave on the day of the assessment. But we also make sure that then there is a weekend in between that makes the 5 days. So in a case where you are unable to take the leave, at least there's 2 days of the weekend that you can use to perform your research. Definitely case study number 2 and 3, we expect you to take leave. It does not necessarily mean you need to take all the 5 days. Once we give you the timetable, you can decide, oh, I need to take, let's say, 2 days in case study 1, 2 days in case study 2, and maybe 3 days in case study 3, or 3 days in both 3 and 4 because it matters the most. So then you are able to assess. But it will be impractical to take all 5 days for all case studies, okay? Because you've got other work responsibilities as well. Assurance, so in case that you get an LC in assessment 2, will write SAP to be eligible for assessment 3, not necessarily Assurance. So just to explain on the LCs and the likes. So pretty much, if you get limited competent for case study 1, you're still okay. If you get limited competent for case study 2, it will start being a problem, but it's not the end of it. You still have case study 3. And if you are competent in case study 3, then we say, right, you've got to write a SAP as well, because we want you to demonstrate competence over time. So then if you're competent again in the SAP, then in that case, you will be eligible for the certificate. So basically the case studies that we want you to be that we want you to be competent in is case study 2 and 3. In that case, then you don't necessarily have to write the SAP. But if you're not competent in case study 3 or 2, then you're more likely to be asked to sit for the SAP and be competent in that. Okay. Right. Let's go back to our team. So another person on the team is Asen Malola. Asen is our IFRS specialist. If there's anyone who knows every paragraph of IFRS, that's your guy that you can consult with at any point. He will make reference to a proviso within the standard, and also knows why the ISB has concluded on that principle in the standard. So he knows all the basis of the conclusions within our standard. He also has an interest in tax, and that's why we like his ability to integrate a number of principles in the program. Then we've got our ethics leader and audit and governance person, Kumukakwashe Matambo. Kumu is our governance specialist. He's currently a manager at IRBA. So he's straight from the regulator, and he was previously the senior manager at PwC in technical assurance. And then we've got Elton Pullen. Elton is our doctor or doctor-to-be in education. So he is someone who is quite passionate about education. And I mean, besides raising 2 kids, he's decided to just do his PhD. I don't know where he gets his time after being a full-time lecturer, full-time dad, and full-time EPC professional team member. He's doing his PhD in education, and most specifically in critical thinking. So you want to actually hear a lot from him about critical thinking and how to demonstrate that skill in the APC program. What is the team without a real leader? And Erewani is our leader who leads this team that is full of men and males from the back. Ere is actually leading this team from the back, and she is our finance director and also our mentorship director. She always says the professional team sometimes needs to be calmed down in terms of their passion, and we need to look after our emotional well-being as well. And she's the best person to speak to when you've got other issues that are not academic in nature. That is the professional team. Between the professional team and also and myself, who will be looking after your interest and also making sure that we respond to your questions tonight. I see there is another question in the box from Shumani, and I will take it. Are you allowed to write SAP even though we're declared competent just to gain more experience? Absolutely, Shumani. We actually encourage even those that are already declared competent to sit for a final assessment, which will not obviously count to your certificate, but to give you that experience that is continuing. And we will still mark it and get our markers to go through it and give you detailed feedback. So you are definitely allowed to do that. Mashudu, so what does this mean if one is competent in assessment 3, but for some reason get LC for the SAP, Does it mean one won't be eligible to get the certificate? Did I get you right? So Mashudu, the question is, were you required to write the SAP? So if you are in Shumani's case, for instance, you wrote the SAP at the, out of the goodness of your heart or voluntarily so, because you are already declared competent because of your case study 2 and 3 results, including 1. Because you voluntarily wrote supplementary assessment, then you don't need to be competent. If you are limited competent in that assessment, then it's okay because you've already been declared competent. But if you were required to write the SAP, even though you were competent in case study 3, say for instance, you were limited competent in case study 1, you were limited competent in case study 2, you were limited competent in case study 0, and for a good reason you did well and you were competent in case study 3. It does not mean you will be eligible for a certificate, but what it means is that it demonstrates that you are now improving, and we might want to have another opportunity to assess you under strict or serious exam condition and ask you to write the SAP. In that case, you were required and you have to demonstrate competence. And if you don't, unfortunately, then you won't have the certificate. But it's unlikely the case, given the fact that we ran the program last year. Once you demonstrate competence in one, unless you decided not to pitch, it's more likely, especially because it's based on the similar case study, but obviously with different tasks, then it's more likely that you will continue to demonstrate competence. I always say once a candidate has demonstrated competence, then it's competent all the way. It's not like you will go backwards. If you already have a certificate from another institute, is there a refresher course that Endunamo offers and the price? Maybe let me not respond to that one more at the moment. I would want you to keep that thought, and I want Rendani to deal with that when he goes through the pricing. Rendani, just flick to the next slide. Let me just see what we have there. Because it might be, it might be the time that we address a most question, but let me just have a look at Mamelo's question. Are the assessments venue-based? You will deal with this, Rendani. Let me get a glass of water and then I'll come back and assist with questions. Rendani, over back to you.
Thank you, Veli. All right, so this is essentially our wrap-up slide. So to wrap it up, is just to clarify the programs that we'll be running this year. That's number one. So as I've briefly mentioned and also fairly emphasized in the timetable, we will be running 3 formal programs this year, being the APC repeaters course, which includes a script review. And then it's a professional course, which is 14,000 then. And then the next one is the accelerated. So just to quickly recap, repeaters will be for the candidates that set for the APC December 2020. So the reason why we refer to it at a specific point and not just any previous APC is because the script review only includes the one for APC December 2020. So if for any reason you are unable to sit for that exam, you have a valid certificate. And now what we are saying is that it is not necessary to register as a repeater candidate, rather register for the professional course, which is intended for first-time candidates. Then the last one, which is the accelerated, will then be the candidates that we currently have in the ITC program, and that will be sitting for ITC April 2021. So that is how the 3 programs work. So our view based on previous outcomes, based on our marking experience. And as you heard, Fadi has been at this for the past 7 years. We have found that it is becoming increasingly difficult for candidates to be successful if they are not in a rigorous program. So for this reason, we have not designed any refresher course. So we will only be offering these full programs in the current year. And then in terms of how it works, we've got quite a lot of employers that we've already spoken to and that we've already been working with in some of our previous programs. So we have a mechanism or structures that we have with different companies. So when you register, if you're registering for the first time, we understand most firms do pay. So you can always reach out to our APC caretaking team and just find out what is the process. And the process is quite simple. Most of the time, you just attach the invoice from the system. We've got a standard template of a letter that you can then copy and paste, and you'll just then shoot it off. Then the next one will then be what? Will then be payment plans. If for any reason you are funding this yourself, we've got payment plans. So also detailed on our questionnaire. And at this point, it's quite important to just note that we've got a very comprehensive questionnaire. We'll be releasing this tomorrow. We just wanted to make sure that some of the questions that are coming out tonight have also been incorporated, but they have been. So tomorrow when we share the link, we'll also share the link with all these questions that may be coming out tonight or even not asked yet, just to make sure that when you make a decision about which program you're joining, you understand especially the demands that it's going to put on you. You consider your own circumstances in working wise and personal, just to make sure that you are able to commit to the program throughout. For us, that's something that's very important more than anything, your commitment to the program. We want to make sure that if it does not come well, then we can say that, yes, we gave it our best, you gave it your best, we continue to then journey together in that deferred program. But if for any reason, then you are worried about the commitment, it's always good to then just go through those questions, just make sure of the timelines of the assessment, make sure of the demands, any intervention that we put in place, and the commitment that will be required from you. That's quite important. And in terms of delivery, as we see today, we are still uncertain of how the future will turn out. So we are hoping that the rollout of the vaccine is successful. Come maybe sometime June, July, things are much better than how they look right now. We are encouraged that the president considered it necessary for us to move to level 1. But at this point, we cannot commit to a face-to-face program. What we can commit to is that the program will not be disrupted. You will complete the program and you will sit for the APC 2021. And as it stands, the program will be delivered using either Zoom or Teams or both, as that will also confirm. But the minimum is that there will be the Zoom platform that forms part of this. So that's the basic tool of technology platform that we use. Then in terms of how we served the candidates last year, we ran Zoom sessions throughout the year. The candidates that are in South Africa, they had a non-venue based assessment. And we also had candidates in Namibia as well as the UK, they also set for non-venue based assessment. And as it stands, our intention is to then run all this, we call them developmental assessment on a non-venue based basis. Then also, depending on where we are, come first case study. So first case study, we're expecting it to be around July. We are expecting that one will be a non-venue based assessment. And the last two will want to really aim to simulate the actual the actual APC assessment by making it a venue-based assessment. So that is our intention as we see today. Things may change to the positive, which we're hoping, and we'll proceed with that plan. And if they are much better than we expect, then we'll seriously consider opening it up for also classes on a face-to-face basis. Then the next aspect, I think the mentorship, we've spoken quite a lot about it, but one thing that we want to always emphasize is that our program has got assessment that includes engagement with the mentor. As we said, it's just beyond the APC assessment, and we'll want you to make sure that when you enroll, you are able to commit to the mentorship program. Then, in terms of the assessment, as I said, there are two developmental assessment and the case study assessments. The developmental assessment will be that case study 0 that Fid was talking about, the business writing exercises that you may need to do, and some of the team task exercises, where now we are saying that you've written your case study, there are some tasks that we want you to resubmit on a group basis. And that will also form part of developmental tasks, as well as business acumen. Then the formal case study will then be what will also be the one that will have the majority of the weighting come the evaluation of your professional competence at the end of the day. But it's important to highlight it to you now that for us, as we are saying, it's a journey. So we don't want to create a program where someone is not committed at the beginning of the program, and come the 2 case study at the end, they want to just make sure that they push for that. Because for us, it is not about the assessment only, it's about the entire journey. So please always consider that when you commit or when you enroll to the program. Then the other thing is what? The other thing is that we've got a portal where everything that relates to the program will be there, your assessments, your feedback, your engagement with the mentors, and also the sector groups and so on. So it's a very comprehensive platform that you will be using throughout the program. It's called My Universe. So when we submit, you will submit, when there's submission, you'll submit on that platform and so on. Then all the registrations are via this link that is available here. So those are some of the things that are very important when it comes to the general admin. But the questionnaire that I'm talking about has really considered some of the structures, and I think that our program may be different from other programs, and also that some may not be exposed to a program before, and they're jumping into a program like this for the first time. So one of the things that we also want you to commit to is—
And Danny, you're sounding a bit far all of a sudden.
For the first time, a lot of things will be new to you. You cannot rely on just getting feedback from others. You need to take this and own this. And that attitude is the attitude that we want to see with our formal case study, especially when you've got groups. Because sometimes we see that there are candidates that get into the assessment and they might not have worked on some triggers and so on. And for us, we are saying that, but it is something that is not just going to happen on a case study assessment, but it happens throughout your professional journey. So for us, we are saying that make sure that you consume the information relating to this assessment. We don't want you to be figuring things out much later because the information you had, but you didn't access it. So please take this as part of your developmental journey. We are here and will provide all the guidance that you need, but we want you to take self-ownership of this of this program, of your own development. So that is something that is quite critical in this journey that we'll be taking together. And with that, that is what we had in store for you tonight. But I see that there are a couple of questions coming in. So yes, so yeah, so the e-rating, so Treff, it is right. It's CICAS 1. We subscribe to it. Your tuition with us covers any rental of the equipment, any a license, I think, during the program. So the fees that you see there are all inclusive. So they're all inclusive. You don't need to worry about anything else. We will ensure that you are fully set up. How many hours are recommended per week? To what? It's a nice, it will be a nice question. To what? Because, and I think this is actually a very good question, because we want to just highlight that you should not see APC preparation or the developmental journey as something outside. So it will be part of your development. So the assessment, they are very, I don't know whether you've had sight of our timetable, but the assessment, they are at specific times. Like in June, there's one assessment. So it's not, what do you call it? If you think about even the 4 case study, we run them between July and November. Those are the only thing we do. There are 4 case studies. So you've got July, August, September, October. So it's like 1 case study per month. Because remember that we are not here to do what, we are not here in that ITC kind of mode. So the timetable, it's available on our website. So yes, I'm not sure whether Zelia is here, but Zelia can always send it and share it with you. But it's very, very it's a very, very professional program, rather than where now you are really task driven. We want you to really appreciate that about it.
Yeah, and maybe just to jump in as well, Rendani, around that question from Grace, because it's quite a useful question. I mean, for any professional, I mean, you'll do the work when the work is there to be done. But there will be other instances where the work is not there to be done and you don't do work. So in the timetable, we made sure that you'll see that it's either in the timetable for a week, there is a session. All you need to do is to attend the session. If there is a task that needs to be done, you do the task to submit. But there is no time for you to say, now you go and study. It's like work. There is no time to study. But if, for instance, we say there's a case study coming, you've got the 5 days to prepare for the case. And the other week, there's no session, then it's a party mode. You don't do anything. Unless, of course, on a personal level, there is a development plan to say, actually, I struggled with this piece in from a technical point, or that I want to just go and watch a CTA lecture video or something like that. Or I'm interested in the sector and I saw that they are trying to purchase or acquire another subsidiary, whatever the case might be, and I want to research and learn more about that. That becomes your journey. But there is no specific hours of doing anything any week. It's like simulating a work environment. Cool. Any other question, guys? Keep the questions coming. You can even raise your hand and speak rather than type the questions. Right. Any other question? Yes, Grace, go for it.
Hi, Sadie. I just wanted to find out with regards to groups. So I heard a lot about the groups and the mentorship program, but I just wanted to understand the allocation of the groups.
To get your question straight, Grace, you say the allocation of the mentors. Grace? Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, but I didn't understand. You're talking about the process of allocating mentors, or what do you mean? What are you...
The process.
Oh yes, so we tried to do a best fit at the beginning to set who on our database of mentors, who's probably the best fit for each of our candidates, and obviously taking a whole lot of things into account, such as age, such as areas of expertise and where they are in the industry, and there's areas of specialism, and looking at our candidate profile, and we match our candidates. Ere, you are around. Also, you can also chat to that process if you are around.
Good evening. Thank you, Fedi. Yes, you're quite correct. What we also do take into account is those elements which you have noted. We take into account also the industry which your mentor is in, because what we also want to try balance is to make sure that you also have that variety, and also have that also we do take some of the personal information which you have shared with us and your mentor would have shared with us, either being age and also where they're working. So we do consider those things when we take the mentees and the mentors. Thank you, Fedi.
Thank you, Ere. Right, any other question? Or are we closing it here? Right, I see Nompilo has got a question. Are there any penalties or costs you pay if you join the EPC program straight after writing your ITC and only to find later that you didn't make it? Very good question, Nompilo. And if you join if you join the EPC program right after writing your ITC in April, and then, God forbid, you find in June that you did not make it for ITC, then we automatically then transfer your funds to the ITC preparation board course, so that then there you don't have to make any payment, or you top up or whatever, depending on how much you would have already paid at that time. Then you become part of the ITC preparation or board course, so that then when you write your board course in September, you are ready. We prepare, we say, no, don't continue with EPC, then rather continue with ITC, so that you focus your energy on passing the ITC, so you don't lose your funds. Hope that makes sense. Nompilo? Fantastic, thank you. Any other question? Oh yes, Zintle, you've got your hand up.
Hi, Fedi. Yes. Is SNG in the list of the employers that you guys are working with?
Yes, definitely. SNG is one of the employers. We're working with all the employers, actually.
Oh.
Yes, we're working with all of them. So SNGGT is one of them.
All right. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you. Mashudu, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you very much. So the question that I wanted to ask is with regard to groups. So as I was doing my research in terms of which, not necessarily in terms of which program is the best, but just a general research on different programs, one of the things that came up was with regard to groups, about how you guys, I don't know how true it is, about how you guys allocate groups. So I just want to know, how does that allocation work in terms of grouping people together, the candidates in particular?
Yes, we do allocate the candidates to groups. And again, we look at making sure that there is diversity in terms of a number of things. So industry, public versus private sector, and in the private sector within different publics, within different sectors as well, with the, also diversity across audit firms, just so that they get a different feel of experiences, diversity around whether you are first time or repeater. So we don't want a group just to have all first timers or to have all just repeaters. Those are the number of things that we do. And also your feedback, because we only allocate groups round about May. So the program will be running for a while, and your input as well into that process matters as to, maybe I've already developed a good relationship with so-and-so. Is it possible if I could be allocated to that group? And we take those into account. Happy, Mashudu? Right, Mashudu, the maximum number per group, we like to keep it tight. We actually call it a team rather than a group, and you will understand why as later when we go through the process, but we like to keep it to a maximum of 5 in each team. Toyosi, does the wide range of employers include small-sized audit firms? Toyosi, it might be the case where we have not engaged with some of the small firms, but that door is always open. In a case where you belong to any small firm, you can reach out to us, and we will make sure that we engage with that small firm to ensure that the relationship is ongoing. But yes, we do have relationships and have started engaging, and also on our list have some of the small firms, but it might not be the whole universe of the small firm group. So yeah, at all times willing to engage. It's quite a small audit market or non-audit, consulting market. So we are able to engage with most of them. So do you see, if you want to reach out to Zelia or any of the team members, you can do so to make sure that your employer is also on the list. Any other question? I don't see any other hands up. Fantastic. Going once, twice. Right, from myself and the entire Indunamo professional team and management, we would like to thank you for your time tonight and for listening attentively and asking very relevant questions. Thank you so much, and for your 2 hours of sparing and just to listen to us and what we have to offer. I definitely look up and look forward to engaging with every single one of you guys on the 27th of March or even preceding that through your registration process, but walking a journey of professional competence with you. I'm looking forward to engaging with every one of you guys, and thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in class as well, and I'm excited to also declare you competent at the end of the year, and even more confident and excited to await the results with you guys in next year when you guys going to nail your APC 2021. Well done, and thank you to every one of you guys. Thanks, and have a good night.